If you have 9 crores to invest, you can get a US green card. How? There is something called the EB-5 program or the Investor Visa program in the US. It's a long-standing program that was revamped massively in 2022. To put it in short, the United States has a rule under which if you invest $800,000 over a certain time period that generates 10 jobs in the US, then you get a green card. This has become especially attractive now because of certain changes in the H-1B visa. So earlier, if an employer was willing to sponsor you, it was fairly straightforward to get an H-1B visa. Now, unfortunately, there's an H-1B lottery. So even if your employer is willing to sponsor you, you may not actually get that H-1B visa. The second reason is that typically a student in the US, an Indian student, gets something called optional practical training. That is 1 year for a non-STEM degree, a non-science and mathematics degree, and 3 years for a STEM degree. But after you finish your OPT, if you don't get that H-1B lottery, you got to come back. So a lot of wealthy parents in India have begun looking at the EB-5 program. The United States issues 10,000 visas under the EB-5 program every year, and each country gets a 7% quota in that. In case of China, that quota has been more than exceeded, but in case of India, there are still spots left in that quota, and experts estimate that it will take months at the current rate to fill that 700 investor quota. So how does the EB-5 work exactly? The EB-5 has something called regional centers. This is the most dominant route to EB-5. There's also something called the self-investment route, but that is riskier and we won't talk about it. So in case of the regional center route, essentially, you have to identify a regional center that you want to invest with. The regional center, in turn, will identify some real estate projects that meet the requirements of EB-5. These are projects that are being constructed in a high unemployment area or projects that are being constructed in the rural parts of the United States, areas with less than 20,000 people. Assuming that you've identified a regional center and a project, you have to first get what is called a due diligence done by a US licensed immigration attorney that your source of funds is legitimate. This typically takes 2 to 3 months. Once that due diligence is done, then you have to transfer the money, $800,000, to this regional center. Now, under India's foreign exchange rules, each person is allowed to remit $2.5 lakh per person per year. So typically what families do is that they remit 2.5 lakhs in March and again in April, because that takes the benefit of 2 different financial years. So per person, the husband can remit $500,000 in the space of 2 months, and the wife can also remit the same amount. So you are able to meet that threshold of $8 lakh. Now, on this $8 lakh, India also imposes something called a tax collected at source, or TCS, of 20%. This is something that you have to factor into your calculations, and you also have to factor in the legal charges and the administrative charges that the lawyer in the US will charge you. If you're going through an agent, the agent will take a commission, the regional center will have a fee. So all of this put together, we think roughly estimates to $1.1 million or 9 crore rupees, roughly speaking. Now, once you transfer the money to the regional center in the US and it is invested, you can make your initial application for this program, the EB-5 program. There is a wait time before that application is processed, especially if you have applied in the pre-pandemic era. The US Immigration Service is still processing applications from 2021 up to 2021. If you apply in the new system after the revamp, then your application will be seen faster. In case of a rural project, it can just take 1 year for your application to be reviewed. Once it is accepted, the USCIS grants you a conditional green card, and typically after another 2 to 3 years, by which time you can demonstrate that you have created, or your investment has created 10 jobs, you get an unconditional green card or a final green card. So that is the chronology of an EB-5 project. All put together, it takes about 4 to 5 years. So if you are interested in all of this, make sure you do your research carefully. It is a very unregulated area. Ensure that if you go through an agent, that agent is registered with USCIS, and regional center is also registered with USCIS.